What's up, studs? So today we're talking about 10 signs that you, not you obviously, other people have a sus work capacity. And I really do strongly feel like this is a topic that is not covered enough, and it is limiting a lot of lifters. They think they are not making progress due to their programming, but it might be the fact that they are just in poor overall shape and their body lacks the recovery capabilities to actually sustain the gains that they want to make. After all, if you are in such bad shape that you can't sustain a certain body weight without being very, very systemically stressed, why would your body add more muscle tissue? It wouldn't, and so it doesn't. So let's jump into it. Sign number one that you are in piss poor shape is if you throw up during weight training. This is often painted as super hardcore. Look at me, look how hard I train. It's not. It's just a sign that you're in really, really bad shape. Now, if you puke during intervals, maybe there's an excuse for that, but leg press, squats, lunges, deadlifts, all these lifts, even for higher reps, you should not be puking. It's a sign that you failed the conditioning exam, not that you know how to push yourself. It's like if someone fails an exam and they're like, look at me, I take the toughest exams. I take exams harder than anyone else. Maybe you're just dumb. Maybe you didn't prepare well. Puking during training in the gym is a sign you messed up real bad at some point. And professional athletes who have an off season and then a preseason training camp, I've heard stories of them puking at that, but it's only the first week or two. Once they get back into the swing of things and they are reconditioning, they don't puke during training. Okay? Again, it's just a sign that you are in supremely terrible shape. I've heard of enhanced lifters puking during arm day, and they're like, oh, look how hard he knows how to train. He pukes during arm day. My first thought is like, wow, you are probably near death because that's how bad of shape you're actually in. Number two is that you are winded during normal day-to-day life activities.
So many aerobics in here. So many activities.
You go up a flight of stairs and you notice like, whoa, that was a little bit more taxing than it should be. Often this seems to happen when people bulk up a little bit, so they put on 20, 30, 40 pounds, and then suddenly their work capacity goes down the drain. I don't think this should actually be viewed as acceptable or normal. Just not being able to do basic human activities,
My head spin how many activities we can do.
is a giant red flag. As a sort of corollary to this, if your resting heart rate is high, so if it's, 80 or 90 beats per minute or something when you're just supposedly chilling, and your body's like, oh no, like it's kind of always in this stressed out state, I would posit, I would theorize that you're not going to be putting on muscle very easily because you're always in this stressed out state. My resting heart rate is about 38 to 40, even around 200 pounds. As a runner, it was around 30 beats per minute. So I'm still in pretty good overall shape, and I would say this has helped my training and my recovery and my ability to make those gains significantly. Number three, having a high intensity training mindset or a one set to failure mindset, especially on easier lifts. A one set to failure protocol, like a Widowmaker on squats, doing 20 reps with your 10 rep max, I would say that is reasonable. Same thing for bigger movements, especially hinges, like doing one set of RDLs. If you can make progress like that, totally fine. But if you are doing cable lateral raises and you're like, yep, that's my one set, couldn't possibly recover from any more, that's probably a sign you're not in very good overall shape, and getting in better shape might actually benefit you. Number four, having to take long rest times even on smaller movements. So by now we all know the Schoenfeld study that said 3 minutes is better than 1 minute. I've cited it a number of times. I'm not necessarily disputing that, but keep in mind the average person is not in good condition. The average person might actually need 3 minutes in order to actually put forth a good effort and a good performance. But that doesn't mean that is going to be the case for everyone. So I've been guilty in the past where I'm like, 3 minutes, that's what you got to do. Well, I think you should still be going by feel. And if you're in good shape, you might feel ready to go 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, minute and a half. If you're doing a circuit of, say, cable lateral raises, some kind of curling movement and some kind of extension, just moving from exercise to exercise to exercise, especially if the gym is empty, you might be fine on a minute rest. You might be fine on 30 seconds rest. You might legitimately be fine on no rest between movements, just walking from one movement to the next and just doing that, then going to the next one, then maybe taking a rest after that circuit is done. But you should not need 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. For these smaller isolation movements, you just don't need that much rest. And if you do, that's a sign you're in terrible shape. And again, something like a squat or a Romanian deadlift or a lunge, something like that is a lot more overall taxing, that is fine to take 3 minutes or 4 minutes or maybe even more. Between sets of RDLs, I go balls to the walls and I take 7 or 8 minutes because that is what I need to recover and that is what provides the most quality for the set. So every movement is going to be different, but if you have to take huge amounts of rest between every single set and you're just powerliftering your bodybuilding training, you're probably going to be limiting your overall musculature growth. And typically my upper body workouts are roughly 30 working sets. It varies a little bit. It could be 25, could be 35. I do auto-regulate, but I get them done in about 90 minutes. I repeatedly and consistently get comments saying, oh, this is so much work, or how do you recover, or this would have taken me 2 hours or 3 hours, or I would have been in the gym 4 hours. This is probably a sign that your ability to have a good density of sets has been compromised, and the number one reason for that is because you're in really bad shape or you're easily distracted. Number 5, walking destroys you. Just the idea of going for an hour to an hour and a half walk fills you with dread, or you're sore in weird places after walking for an hour at a moderate pace. That should not even be viewed as exercise. If you're like, yeah, my cardio is walking, that's not a good sign, okay? You could maybe make the case for it being a form of cardio, sure, depending on the definition, but if that is getting your heart rate super high up, or it actually causes some kind of recovery drain, not a good sign. And I walk about an hour to an hour and a half immediately after training. No snack, no shake, nothing in between. Even after leg days, I walk an hour to an hour and a half. If people are super worried about the anabolic window and can't walk a little bit after training, not a good sign. Really, really not a good sign. Your body is not that fragile, and it hasn't seemed to negatively impact gains at all. If anything, it's quite relaxing, and it seems to help my recovery. So if walking hurts your recovery, unless it's in the extreme, something has gone terribly wrong. By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. They are the long-term sponsors of the channel. Out of the literally hundreds of sponsors that have reached out to me, they are the one that I have chosen because they are legit. They have dozens and dozens of programs from some of the best people in the industry. I myself have 2 programs up there, Ravage and Rampage. One is 3 days per week full body. One is the 6-day per week training plan that I've used myself personally over the past year and a half or so. And they're both hypertrophy focused. And so if you want to check out those programs, I will leave a link in the description. And enjoy the gains. All right, number 6 is sort of a multi-part one. First, fragility. Second, you are fatigue focused. Or third, you are worried about the interference effect. So the first one, I have noticed a pretty strong correlation in the people that I've worked with between people getting aches and pains frequently, like way more frequently than other people, and just being in bad overall shape. And I think this is due to a sensitivity issue. You have people who have never really participated in sports, they were not active, they've been a couch potato their whole life. And so when they start any training program, just anything at all, because they are so sensitive, they get these aches and pains very easily. And often they are not actually injuries. It's just this phantom pain that shows up and then it's gone the next week. So, they'll freak out and say, oh yeah, my discs are herniated. And I'll be like, okay, whoa, let's, describe the pain. Let's work through this. Let's adjust things as needed. And then 2 days later, it's completely gone. And then the next week, there's something else. A day later, it's completely gone. And so they're not actually injured. They're just so sensitive to these new sensations because they're not in very good overall shape and they've never actually had to go through physical hardship or suffering, which an endurance athlete absolutely would go through, that they have all these issues. Whereas someone is, used to be a rower or a runner or a cyclist, they have much, much fewer of these issues. Far fewer. Also, in terms of the fatigue or stimulus to fatigue ratio side of things, ex-endurance athletes, they don't worry about fatigue because they know that anything they're doing in the gym is going to be so much easier than what they were doing before. Someone who used to be a Tour de France cyclist, they can go into bodybuilding training and they have no issues with it. It's so much easier. I mean, if you used to be a competitive rower or a competitive runner, you are used to grinding things out on a very, very regular basis. And weight training, you get to rest between sets. And it's only really even difficult the last 1, 2, 3 reps. So most of the set is pretty easy. And even the difficult parts are an order of magnitude easier than absolutely brutal high-level endurance training. And some content creators will say stuff like, oh yeah, former endurance athletes, they're slow twitch, they'll never get big. Really? Really? Well, I'm inclined to disagree. Finally, if someone is worried about the interference effect, I think this is probably a sign that they should do more cardio. If cardio destroys you to the point where it interferes with your lifting, you should probably do more cardio. You can space it away from the workouts because the interference effect, it is real, but I would say in the long term, getting in better overall shape will help your gains. So there might be a short-term interference effect if you do them right after each other or even on the same day, but in the long term, it's probably going to do nothing but benefit your lifting and the results you get from it. Number 7 is pretty short and simple. If you're seeing a big drop-off in reps set to set, more often than not, it means you're in bad shape. Now, this could mean you are capable of generating a lot of fatigue because you are very, very strong, but I would say in the majority of cases, if your reps go like 15, 6, 3, you're probably not in very good overall shape unless you are taking very short recoveries. If you're doing like DC training or something and you're taking just a few breaths in between the mini sets, fair enough. Myo reps, fair enough. But if you took like a normal 4, 5, 3-minute rest time between your RDLs and the next set is just, your reps get cut to like a third of what they were before, not a good sign. Number 8 is a little bit general, but this is where you are not in the groove. You're not in the zone. You are not in the workout during the workout. You are easily distracted. You are on your phone. You're having conversations, etc. I think often this is because you need that time to recover because you are in poor overall shape. Again, for me, I don't take a long time to recover, and I don't think I'm some kind of genetic freak in this regard. I just have 10 years of hard endurance training before I started lifting. And I know some people are going to be like, well, I don't have that. If you're behind, you can either give up or you can try to catch up. Your choice. Number 9, you are destroyed after training, or you are constantly super sore, or you are like, oh man, that workout just destroyed my chest for a week. I get comments where someone's like, man, you're doing a bro split? All that volume on one day? And I'm like, no, I'm doing this twice a week. I've been doing this twice a week for years. And they're like, oh. So a lot of people's definitions of how much you can do and how hard you can do it and what you should be able to recover from is just skewed. And I think this is often because they're just not in very good overall shape. Again, this sounds hardcore, right? Oh, I was sore from those lunges for a week. Is that hardcore, or are you just in bad shape? And number 10, you don't even know what shape you are in. So I'm not a huge fan of CrossFit. One good thing I think they've done is they actually have standards. So what is your output for 2 minutes? What is your output for 5 minutes? 10 minutes, 20 minutes? What can you do? And then you're comparing it to other people in this community. A lot of lifters, they know all their PRs by heart. Okay, 10 rep max RDLs, 5 rep max bench press. What could I do for pull-ups, AMRAPs? All great stuff, but if you don't know your overall systemic work capacity, I would say there's probably room for improvement more often than not. Okay, so what to do? I don't want to make a video saying 10 problems you have and not give you any solutions, although that is tempting. It's a little bit of a dick move, right? So first, realize and recognize that there is a problem and make it a priority. A lot of people, they don't even realize what shape they're in. And so have some observable and measurable and manageable metrics, nice alliteration there, brain, that you can actually try to improve over time. Number 2, if you are above roughly 20% body fat for a man, losing fat is going to be the lowest hanging of the lowest hanging fruit. It's not that hard to do in most cases. The vast majority of times, you just have to stop shoveling bullshit, Franken processed fast food delivery crap in your mouth, and that should be enough to lose weight.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Without counting calories or sacrificing anything else at all. So if you are fat, become less fat, and ideally, unfat. Number 3, get a step tracker and use it to track your steps, as it were. So if you are getting in 2,000 or 3,000 steps a day, that's not good. That's really not good for your health. I would say 5K is an absolute minimum that I try to suggest for people. 10K even better, especially if it doesn't take that much more out of your day to get it in. And then 15K steps might have some slight additional benefits as well, especially if you are trying to attack number 2 and lose some body fat. Number 4, shorten your rest times during your normal weight training workouts. This might impact your performance in the very short term. Suck it up, buttercup. It is what it is. Your performance will return to normal once you get used to this. This is one instance where I do not recommend going by feel. You might want to strictly time your rest periods. For most people, going by feel is enough, but if you're in bad shape, going by feel might result in you being a powerlifter who gets in 5 working sets in an hour and a half. Not great. Number 5, add in AMRAPs, Metcons, finishers, density training. I'm not saying go do German volume training on deadlifts or something, but add in some higher rep stuff. Again, if you've been just doing powerlifter type training, lots of triples, lots of doubles, that is just going to have a different systemic effect on the cardiovascular system compared to sets of 10 or sets of 15 or sets of 20. If the idea of doing a set of 10 on squats absolutely fills you with dread, that's exactly what you should be doing. Number 6, you can add in formal steady state cardio or intervals or tempo runs or fartleks or hill sprints, formal cardio. I think that for a lot of people, not doing formal cardio is enough if you're doing higher rep weight training. But for a lot of people, if you really want to maximize your overall general physical preparedness, formal cardio is probably a good idea. And then number 7, be consistent with it. It's not enough to do it for a week or a month. Okay, this has to be something you are doing on a very regular basis. And in some ways, I am maybe not fortunate, because I don't think luck has anything to do with it, but I have that base of work capacity from when I was a runner, and so I don't necessarily need to focus on it very much. You might not have that luxury, and so if you really want to maximize your physique, you might need to build out the systems to support it. Anyway, for more details on practical programming and periodization principles, you can check out my books. I will link them in a pinned comment. The feedback has been incredible. I've priced them extremely reasonably, and they will help you a ton on your fitness journey. I've had exactly 0 death threats from people who have purchased it and were unhappy, and so, that's a good sign as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.